Who goes there?
What if I told you that one of the most dangerous crime thrillers of 2026 isn't based on a comic book, a true crime podcast, or a best-selling novel, but on Shakespeare? Not loosely inspired, not reimagined beyond recognition. I'm talking about Hamlet. Yes, that Hamlet. And after watching the first trailer, I can tell you right now this is not a classroom adaptation. This is a psychological crime drama wrapped in neon lights, moral decay, and generational power. Before we begin, would you please support me? Subscribing is free and very important to me. For better analysis and more videos, please subscribe and like. Riz Ahmed is stepping into one of the most emotionally complex roles ever written, and he's doing it inside modern London's wealthy South Asian elite. And somehow, against all odds, it works. Vertical just released the trailer for this new Hamlet adaptation, and from the opening moments, the tone is crystal clear. This isn't dusty theater. This is grief under surveillance. This is power hidden behind glass skyscrapers. This is revenge in a capitalist ecosystem. The story begins with loss. Ahmed's Hamlet is mourning his father, a powerful and respected figure within England's affluent South Asian community. The funeral atmosphere isn't just personal. It feels political, corporate, controlled. There's status in every frame. And then the ghost appears, not in a medieval castle, not in candlelight, on a rooftop overlooking the London skyline. That visual alone tells you everything about the direction Aneil Karia is taking. The past isn't buried. It's towering over the present. The father's spirit confronts Hamlet and reveals what we've always known from Shakespeare's original text. His death wasn't natural. His uncle may be responsible. From that moment, the trailer shifts into something tense and sharp. Riz Ahmed delivers original Shakespeare dialogue, but in tailored suits, under LED lights, surrounded by wealth and modern architecture. The clash between centuries-old language and hyper-modern setting creates something hypnotic. It reminded me instantly of Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet from 1996, where Leonardo DiCaprio delivered classic lines in a contemporary crime world. But this version of Hamlet feels colder, more intimate, more suffocating. And here's what fascinates me most. The structure largely follows the original play, but screenwriter Michael Leslie rearranges key sequences and removes certain elements to make the narrative cinematic. The themes remain untouched: grief, mortality, perception versus reality, the consequences of action. But now those themes unfold against city traffic, flashing sirens, and corporate boardrooms. One of the most striking sequences in the trailer is the to be or not to be monologue. Instead of a quiet soliloquy, Hamlet is driving down a highway at high speed. He sees a truck barreling toward him, and for a moment, he removes his hands from the steering wheel. That visual reinterpretation is bold. It captures the suicidal contemplation embedded in the speech without changing the words. It's one of the most visually intense moments shown so far, amplified by high-contrast lighting and saturated color grading. The production design here is not subtle. It's immersive. Mirrors frame Hamlet's face, reflecting fractured identity. Shadows slice across Ahmed's eyes, blurring the line between sanity and delusion. You can almost see the mental war happening behind his expression, and Ahmed delivers. He doesn't just recite Shakespeare, he internalizes it. There's rage in his stillness, regret in his hesitation, confusion in the way he shifts his gaze. You watch him transition between fury and vulnerability in seconds. If you've seen Ahmed in The Night Of, you already know he can portray psychological collapse with precision. And if you remember that he won an Oscar for the short film The Long Goodbye with director Aneil Karia, then you understand this collaboration isn't random. There's history here, creative trust. Karia, who directed The Long Goodbye and episodes of The Witcher Blood Origin, brings a cinematic intensity that makes this feel less like theater and more like a modern crime epic. The cultural specificity of setting the story within London's South Asian elite community adds new depth to the power dynamics. Claudius, played by Art Malik, feels quietly menacing. His reaction during the cultural dance sequence that replaces the classic play within a play scene is chilling. Instead of actors reenacting a murder, we get a stylized performance infused with lighting and choreography that signals guilt without explicitly stating it. That sequence might be one of the film's most powerful creative risks. The lighting shifts ominously, the camera moves with precision, the music builds into something almost suffocating. It's artistic, but it's also accusatory. And then there's Ophelia. Her role is noticeably reduced in this adaptation. Her breakdown is present, but it's not given the same narrative space as in traditional versions. That may frustrate purists, but within this restructured script, it keeps the focus intensely centered on Hamlet's internal collapse. Timothy Spall's brief appearance as Polonius adds gravitas. Joe Alwyn's Laertes shines during the final confrontation. And even though not every supporting character gets equal weight, the ensemble elevates Ahmed's central performance. What makes this adaptation stand out is its commitment to blending classical language with contemporary anxiety. Neon reflections, city noise, glass towers, cultural rituals. It feels modern without erasing Shakespeare's soul. Critically, the film has already premiered at Telluride Film Festival and currently holds an 82% rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on early reviews. That's not accidental. Audiences and critics alike seem to be responding to the risk-taking approach. The film opened in the UK on February 6th and arrives in US theaters April 10, 2026. And as that release approaches, I genuinely think this version of Hamlet could reignite interest in classical adaptations for mainstream audiences. Because here's the truth. Shakespeare survives not because we preserve him in museums, but because we reinterpret him. And this version feels alive. There's something deeply unsettling about watching a story written over 400 years ago unfold in a world of corporate power and inherited wealth. It makes the tragedy feel contemporary, immediate, familiar. Let me ask you something. Do modern adaptations strengthen classic works, or do they risk diluting them? I'm genuinely curious where you stand on this, because this film will definitely spark debate. For me, this Hamlet isn't about proving relevance. It's about exposing how timeless corruption, grief, and revenge truly are. And if Riz Ahmed's performance sustains the intensity shown in the trailer, we may be looking at one of the most compelling Shakespeare adaptations in years. This isn't just a literature experiment. It's a crime thriller. It's a character study. It's a psychological descent framed by city lights and generational power. Hamlet arrives in US theaters April 10, 2026, and I'll be there opening week. Because if this trailer is any indication, we're about to witness something bold. This is Screen Radar, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.